Hi, I'm Dawn Damari, and you're listening to A Teaspoon of Healing. This episode kicks off a brand new season of the podcast. So today's episode is about inner peace, forgiveness, and health. And the world has changed a lot since I started this podcast in late 2017 now, and a lot of the news is really distressing. And most of us, we want our lives to be peaceful, we want the world to be peaceful, we want things to be calm, but of course, the world doesn't always work that way. And we can't do much about what goes on in the world, but we can help ourselves. So it's no secret that life is pretty stressful, and it's kind of amplified by the instant access to all of the events that are going on in the world via our smartphones, social media, and whether you watch TV news or on your phone, it's available 24 hours. This podcast is not about telling you to stop going on social media, stop reading the news. Everybody has to choose what they want to do. What I'm talking about is managing our stress. Besides the things I just mentioned, our lives are stressful and we can't escape stress. However, there are things we can do to manage it. Our bodies are equipped to handle the stress that comes along with life and to handle emergencies. Our nervous system has what is called the fight or flight mode, or the sympathetic nervous system, that can get activated in times of emergencies. And our prehistoric ancestors had this same exact nervous system, and it was very useful when a lion was going to attack our village or we were getting ambushed by a neighboring clan. And nowadays, this same fight or flight mode can help us handle natural disasters, family emergencies, and other stressful situations. However, what our bodies are not designed to do is to be in a constant chronic state of stress, which most of us are in nowadays. And our nervous system can't tell the difference, by the way, between a lion attacking our home or us being stressed out about being in traffic. So again, while we can't avoid it, there are ways to manage it. So being in a chronic, constant state of stress means that our heart rate goes up, our blood pressure is elevated, and our heart has to work a lot harder to keep our blood flowing. If this is sustained over long periods of time, this can actually lead to heart attacks and strokes. And I'm not meaning to stress you out by that, not at all, but there are things we can do to manage our stress so we aren't chronically and constantly stressed out. So one of these ways to manage it is by cultivating inner peace. And that sounds really simple, right? It really isn't, as most of you know, and I've struggled a lot with this in my life, but inner peace for me over the last couple of years is something so important and precious to me. And I think I've gotten to a point where I've been better able to manage stress and lower my anxiety by cultivating inner peace. And you can do this through many ways. And most of this is going to be familiar to you. If you're into mindful meditation, do that. Slow, deep belly breaths are good. Anything that's going to calm that central nervous system down, get you out of fight or flight mode and into what is called rest and digest mode. That's your parasympathetic nervous system. So that will help us stay grounded. We can deal with the stress, but then come to a place of peace and where our nervous system can calm down in between those times. And that's really healthy for our bodies. Our heart rate goes down, blood pressure goes down. It's just really healthy. So there's a lot of ways to do this besides meditation. We could cultivate a daily gratitude practice or journaling. And one thing that is really good for cultivating inner peace is just being outside in nature. As simple as that. 20-minute walk in nature has been shown through studies to significantly reduce levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone that causes a cascade that raises our heart rate and all these things. Just simply taking a little nature walk, taking a walk in a park by your house, only 20 minutes. Other things you can do is look at your relationships, look at things you can control, some things you can't, and see which ones bring you peace and which ones you might have to keep at arm's length when needed. Again, this isn't easy to do and there's no perfect way to do it, but whatever you can to reduce your stress, for some people it might be going off social media for a week. It might be turning off the news. If that helps you calm down, totally do that because it can really help your health. There is another way to cultivate peace in our own lives, and that is through forgiveness. And this is, again, really not easy. It's really not easy. It requires continual practice, and I've had trouble with it myself. The first thing we can do is, instead of ruminating and thinking about things we've done in the past, we can forgive ourselves for it. And we can apologize to people if we need to, but mainly just forgiving ourselves. And this releases us from the grip on our past. This doesn't mean we don't ever regret anything we've done. It doesn't mean we're never going to feel bad about it. It just means, okay, I forgive myself. Let's move on. The second step in forgiveness is to forgive others. And this really isn't easy. Before I say anything about this does not mean that if somebody hurt you, that it was justified or it was okay. It doesn't mean you have to allow somebody back in your life who hurt you. And it doesn't mean that the people who hurt you got away with stuff. Actually, by forgiving them and moving on, you get away with it. You get to have new experiences, you get to be free, and you get to make new memories. And by the practice of forgiveness, you can write down who you forgive, you can journal it. I've done that. It really helps you let go of these grudges, let go of the anger, and really bring a lot more lightness into your life. Holding on to resentment about previous hurts can affect our physical health, and studies have shown this, that it can cause sleep disturbances, stomach issues, anxiety, and depression. And there was even a study in 2016 where they followed some adults for 5 weeks, and the ones who forgave others experienced lower stress levels and also reduced their anxiety and depression. So by forgiving people, no matter how hard it is so good for your health and your stress levels. Forgiveness can also make your relationships with others more harmonious, especially new friends, new connections. You're just going to have a much more lighthearted look at life. You might find yourself smiling at strangers more. You might find yourself also really able to connect and develop compassion for people with wildly different worldviews and life experiences. You'll be surprised. Now, again, I want to mention that doing these things, having inner peace and forgiveness, you need to have strong personal boundaries. This doesn't mean be a doormat, let everybody walk over you. You don't have to be a monk in the woods either. You can still have your job and your social life and have fun. Just coming back to a center. But again, strong boundaries are super important. So while we can try our best to make our inner lives very peaceful, we can forgive ourselves, forgive people, and we can try to be more harmonious with our neighbors, there's always going to be someone out there who wants to make us angry. They want to poke at us. They might troll us online, insult us. And what do you do in that case? Well, instead of firing back and starting a huge argument, whether it's online or in person, a few things you can do is just to ignore them if you can. Walk away from them, block and delete, kill them with kindness if you need to. Now, this doesn't always work in the workplace. It's not always going to be possible to do this with a coworker who's insulting you or driving you nuts or being passive aggressive. But anything you can do to guard your inner peace is really going to help you. Practicing forgiveness and cultivating inner peace in our lives also doesn't mean that we can't have passion for things, and we can't also stand up for ourselves or push back against bullying or take a stand on an issue that's really important to us. Those are important things in life. It just means that after we say what we need to say or do what we need to do, we can step back and breathe, ground ourselves, and then return to our peaceful center. So by doing all of this, you might find that your mental health improves, your physical health improves, you might find yourself being much happier, and people might be much more drawn to you. Strangers are probably going to smile at you more, and you might find that the life in your own community or your neighborhood is happier. And while most of us want a peaceful, calm, happy world, maybe we want to return to 2019 or another time in our life. We can't go back in time. All we can do is go forward. We can't do much about the world. We can't create peace on earth, no matter how much we want to. I'm an idealist at heart, and that's what I would love. But what we can do is try to create peace within ourselves, forgive others, try to have harmonious relationships as much as possible with others. And that's how it can get started. Well, thank you for listening. And if there's any topics you'd like to hear about, let me know. You can go to my website, teaspoonofhealing.com, and click on contact and let me know what you want to hear about. And again, stay tuned. I will have a lot of guests on the show, and I have other fun stuff planned. And please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to the podcast So now, some required legal stuff and a word from our sponsor.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Please consult a physician or other health professional before undertaking changes in lifestyle or wellness habits. The author claims no responsibility to any person or entity for any liability, loss, or damage caused or alleged to be caused directly or indirectly as a result of the use, application, or interpretation of the information presented herein.
Susan, you remember the time we were in Orange County? We were driving around and we got lost, and we ran into this place called
Avila's El Ranchito.
You remember the place? The place had awesome decor and authentic margaritas.
Did you know that Avila's El Ranchito has been around since 1966? They have 13 locations throughout Orange County. Visit Salvador Avila's location in Lake Forest and Foothill Ranch for great food, ambiance, and specialty margaritas.